Hi, my name is Sally Barnard, an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer. Welcome to Call Me Zena, a true story into the spiritual realms. Join me as I sit and discuss the journey of self-discovery, and with the help of my spirit guides, it's time to trust your intuition. Sit with me and call in live 888-994-4995 Studio A. And now onto the show. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to my show. For any new listeners, I hope that I help you and you keep an open mind. For my viewers that have been watching me, I hope this is going to be a great show. I'm opening up to the audience and also to you. The number here is 888-994-4995. By popular demand, I'm going to read another prose in my book, and then the show will start. This was the very first one that I ever did. I actually wrote this November the 2nd, 2006. I had no idea what I was doing. So here it tells me, I'm telling myself basically, what is going on within the mysteries of our souls. Here we are, we're here to understand, but we are mere mortals in this universe. Way beyond the stars, there are no mysteries. We have not touched the surface. Must we judge? I think not. Look within. Our answers are all there. Take time to smell the flowers. Look to the sky and way beyond. We are missing so much in this world as we know it. Look within, look beyond. We have so much to learn. So go slow, my child. Forget the anger, forget the rage. Stop now and learn. We must forgive. We must forgive ourselves. We are immortal. That which was is. Zena. At that time, I didn't even know how this happened. But today, over the years, and with the help, if you have my book, of Aldo, who actually taught me so much, he said I knew this in other lifetimes, but he brought it back to me in this life. I began to understand a little bit of what I was writing. It was just like my art. I had no idea what I was drawing, but he's pointing things out from other lifetimes. So what I really am trying to say is, and I usually work with questions, but I'm asking myself a question, I guess. What is going on? But I stopped, I listened, and I learned so much. It was my time. It will be for you too. You're listening to my show, and I'm sure you have many, many things happening to you if you followed my show. So please call in if there's anything that maybe I can help you with. I'm here to answer your questions. Now I'm going to open it up to the studio. Question time.
I think that's so interesting. You're talking about the stars and the cosmos. You don't remember writing that at all?
No, nothing at all. It's same as my artwork. I would just go into my office at that time, and suddenly I don't know that I'm even now I am in some sort of a trance, but I don't do what a lot of people do, and then they say an entity comes in. It just happens, like it did actually on your show. I had no idea what I was talking about, but I think it complemented what the question was on your show. It just happens. But maybe I do it a little differently. I'm no better or less than anybody else, but we all have our own way of tuning in, actually. But if you take notice of what you're saying, and I feel that I am definitely being guided, because a lot of the questions that I even have on my show, if you asked me, and I'm not particularly in that space, let's call it, I probably wouldn't know. But I do, because I'm able to answer them. So I feel that I definitely must be being guided, as I was with this and with my art all those years back.
You're always being guided. When you're in a crowded room or in an airplane or at a party, how do you not take in the energy? Because I look at a party, there can be 300 people, and somehow I feel I'm the only one feeling, even on an airplane, I'm the only one getting in the effects of it.
There are no coincidences, Dawn. I was just explaining that same situation, and I mentioned you to Steve the other day. I'm finding it harder and harder, even to go to airports, anywhere. We went to a show. We saw The Lion King. That's what we saw. I feel it as I walk in, because there's so many different, it's coming much stronger. I choose, honestly, that is very difficult for me, so I can absolutely understand. And I said, I don't think I'm alone, because Dawn feels the same way. If there's a crowd, I'm getting vibrational energy, and it's hard at this point now to sort of say, I don't want this. I can chew myself off from what we're doing right now. I don't go around talking to everybody this way. But when there's a lot of energies of people in a room, it's becoming harder and harder for me, definitely.
I was actually going to ask, based on Don's question, is when there's so many energies around, how do you protect yourself not getting affected by that?
It's hard. It's not easy. But now that I'm more and more aware of it, because I feel it so much more, I know I have to protect myself. I choose, actually, but I'm still here, and I'm very happy about that, trying not to go into too many crowds, because it didn't bother me as much as it is now.
Well, what are you protecting yourself against?
Energies, people's vibrational energy. It's good or bad, not necessarily bad. It can be all good, but they're always, if there's a lot of people, it's a mixture of good and bad. We're energy, so I'm picking up energies. So as much as I'm picking up very good energies here right now, I can still feel something. And well, not now, and the room is pretty, there's not many of us in the room, but if you're in a whole crowd, let's say with a couple of hundred people or even more, you are picking up if you're in tune with it. Well, I'm in tune with it because of what I do. The more I've done this over the years now, it's affecting me more. So I have Aldo to speak to. I say, just protect me, so I'm not scared. It's harder. It's getting harder.
Steve has said that when he got the diagnosis that he wasn't feeling well, his vibrational energy was down. And he came in here and he was surrounded by people trying to lift his spirits, trying to lift his energy until he turned around and he finally bought into it. And he healed. He got better. My question here is, if there's a dark force, whatever you want to call it, you don't want to avoid it. You want to help heal it, no?
You actually want to face it, but when and that's fine, and I will do that. But when there is a lot of people, let's say at an airport, you don't know which one to face at that point. So it's good and bad. But I feel all these vibrational energies coming. So if I choose, how many could anybody tune into? It's okay on a one-to-one or whatever it is.
Do those vibrational energies vary based on which level they're on?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, because I talk about, third, fifth, or you raise your vibrational energy. I'm going to only pick up the energy or vibrational energy that I'm on. But that doesn't mean to say everyone is positive on that energy. And it's going to come stronger because I'm on a higher vibration. So whatever they're sending to me, and I had absolutely happened to me in my house, and I was walking around a couple of months ago. I know, and I know this from Aldo, that something was happening where I was being sent negative vibrations. I mean, I even told Steve this. And then I said to myself, and I don't know who it was, and I don't even want to know who it is. But that's okay, because, there's a lot of entities out there. I said, enough is enough. I do not want this. Even if I didn't believe it, it's still the thing to do. So you can kind of push it away. And I did, and I don't feel it anymore. I don't know what it was, and I don't need to. But
when you do feel it, does it bring you down?
Well, you begin to act a little more negaely, or you get angry for no reason.
But you pick to do that. It isn't an entity that's doing this to you.
No, it wasn't me, Freddie. A lot of the times when these things happen, yes, but if I'm in a perfectly happy space and suddenly I feel it. It happens to all of us, but because I'm so in tune, and it may be in the smallest thing, I don't know, and I may not even know that person, but whatever it was affecting me personally, because I have the ability at this point, because I've trained myself to feel if I'm feeling that energy.
That's called picking, right?
It's called...
You're picking it.
I'm picking it up, but I don't...
Well, let me ask you a question. If I slam my finger in a car door and I break it, the pain is a lot.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that I wanted to do that, but it did happen. As opposed to if Dawn closes the door and breaks my finger. It wasn't her energy that broke my finger, it was the door. So my question to you is...
I'm getting situations and circumstances. I have no idea what that would mean, as you're telling me that. Because maybe we have a situation, and then the circumstances is something that maybe we're meant to handle ourselves. I don't know.
That's the learning
just
point,
hearing
isn't
that.
it?
Yes. Yeah,
But when you get on an airplane or you're at a concert, you're fine.
When you get on or when you're on the plane?
When you're on, by the end of a
You're
vacation,
on the plane.
by the end of being exposed to hundreds of people,
Hundreds of people, millions of people.
you feel exactly the same?
Of course.
See, I don't.
Yes, you do. You choose not to.
No,
but this
because
is the
there's a-
point.
Well, that's what I'm
empaths.
saying.
But,
which-
but
It
you
makes
pick,
me like physically ill.
Absolutely.
you are picking to feel physically ill.
I
well,
don't think so. I don't
No,
think I like to
pretty
feel
sure.
ill.
because outside influences, and they may not even, people do not know they're even doing that. But say somebody, just use this as an example, in the airport, on an aeroplane, is having a very, very bad day. Okay, just let's use that. And they are totally depressed. They're angry, they're fed up. As an empath, and you know this, that is going to be, which I'm just learning now, the strongest vibration on that particular plane. So as an empath, which one are you going to pick up? The strongest, because it's coming to you. It happens to all of us. We just don't feel it.
I'm going to give you a bigger example.
Okay.
Okay? Aldo came into your life to flick your on button to feel.
That's right.
Just to feel. He's not going to tell you how deep to run in the well. He's not going to tell you when to. He's to feel. So if you pick and choose to feel, this is your choice.
That's right.
Not her. She's not
no, but
going
that
to choose
encounters
for me.
a lot of different situations,
but-
obviously. And yes, you're right. Absolutely
If
right.
you pick to take my negative vibe in, if you take my energy, that's even a bad example, but if you decide to go in that direction, this is on you.
But I don't think it's picking. I told you what
protect
happened
yourself.
when I went into the
The Twin
memorial for the
Towers.
Twin
I know.
Towers. I didn't choose to take in. I didn't
That's
know
right.
that was even something that could happen.
You
It was
were
before I
aware.
knew. It was before I knew what it is.
Oh, so welcome to the School of Learning.
Yes. So I didn't walk in and say, "Oh, please let me take in thousands of people's pain."
Time out. You're confusing 16 different things.
Why? Because
No,
their souls versus.
Because just like Sally was awakened, maybe
Well,
you
Dawn
were
is
awakened.
too. But with that, with anything, it's a learning experience. It can be good or bad situations. But as long as you know it, you have a way of protecting yourself too. So as much as I would protect myself now going, let's use the airport, as best I can. We went to the Lion King. I knew that I had to do something. I can protect myself. We can protect ourselves, as we just lit some candles there. It's only, I'm going to say, an illusion. But if we believe that, it's going to help us with anything. If you believe it and you have a way that which you can tell yourself, this is real, I'm going to protect myself, or whatever it is, it will work. But you have to believe that you're doing that in anything in life.
I have a question. With people's energies, when you have somebody that has an anger issue or a resentment or regret, you can sense that energy from that person. How do you protect yourself from that energy not
That's what we're talking about.
entering you?
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and this is good. Aldo used to say to me, just protect yourself. It's imagination, really, if you're going to do it this way, but just put a white light around you. A candle is good because it's reminding you you're protecting. The candle is there. We sage. Why do we sage? We're saging to get rid of energies. But you have to believe it too. I can sage this place and it would help. But the people in the place have to believe that it's going to help, because the ones that don't, and I've seen this happen, will have that energy
Say that
happen to
again.
them.
People what?
The people that I'm using here is that just
No,
as an
just
example.
repeat that.
The people in this particular environment where we are now
Have to.
believe that the sage is going to work.
But that's choice.
But
Again,
yes, it is
you,
all a choice. You're
you have to
absolutely
pick it.
right. You are, but you choose to believe or not to believe.
But if you choose not to believe, then you're going to go negative and say that negative energy is impactful on you. That doesn't occur unless you create it.
Well, yes, this is true, but I can only go by an example of what happened to me a couple of months ago. It was like, and I try because I'm aware of being very positive. So I'm walking around and it was a lot in my house. You can't see it. It's just a feeling. I'm doing this and in my mind, it's not going to work. That's not the way I think. I try my best to say whatever I'm doing is going to work. But it didn't happen once. It was happening throughout the day. whatever it was. And I'm getting angry over I have no idea what. So in my belief, and I may have been wrong, but I don't know, but I believe someone was sending me bad energy. I wake up the next
It
day.
wasn't you creating it.
No, I was not, because I've been in the same situations that were bothering me before. Why would it? I can't, again, this is in my mind.
Frequency is neither made nor destroyed. The energy
It's
constantly flows. Okay,
That's right.
it doesn't mean if your energy level is an octave below, so you're not at the 5th stage, you're at the 3rd stage.
Right.
I mean, you're allowed to do that. Yes.
Absolutely. And
So there is
we
a
have to have,
change.
also there's a reason, I often say negativity can turn into positivity, because without that negativity, and it's exactly what we're talking about, if something is being thrown at me, I need that to learn. So maybe I was doing something that needed to teach me to learn, to look into this and say, I don't want it this way. And it woke me up to the fact that I'm doing something that I need to change.
That's right.
So that's turning the negativity into my world into positivity.
But you did that.
I did that.
You
Yes,
picked
and
that.
I can't tell you that I didn't pick someone to be negative. There was definitely an energy. I'm absolutely
So
certain.
let's go back to the example. Being at a crowded airport, you pick and choose what you want to associate with.
Yeah, but you can't.
Trust
Because
me.
there's a lot of, maybe hundreds of people. I don't know. who's-
Maybe there's thousands. It makes no difference. You have to pick what you want in your presence.
So that's when we protect ourselves, Freddie, by just imagining there's something. So you know what? And I've seen it happen with Aldo did this, and he taught me this, that we were working in the same place. And, there's jealousy, that he happened to be good in what he was doing. And, it's human nature to be, especially if you're in sales, to be jealous of somebody. Oh, go like this. But really deep down, why in the world wasn't that me? And that's human. I mean, if we say it's not true, as far as I know.
Well, how do we protect ourselves?
That's-
Because everyone can't walk around with a candle. I mean, I guess
No,
you
no,
could,
but you can imagine, which I do because it's only recently, we've actually been doing this too, but it's good because basically with the candles there is a reminder that we're doing that. But as you say, we're creating this. So in my mind, it's all imagination. In my mind, everything is imagination. So I'm imagining that I'm fully protected and that Aldo is here to help me. I truly believe he is. So if something comes through that I don't feel is good to me, I know I have to work. Now I know I have to work on that, whatever it is. It's a lesson for me. If we didn't have lessons, why are we here?
Okay. On that subject, somebody said, I remember someone saying around me that some people who die are still wandering. They're in a different dimension. But do those wandering souls or spirits, do those connect to us, human beings that are alive?
Well, actually, there's a waiting period when you pass before you come back, as if you're wanting to reincarnate. It's called, I believe in Buddhism, I just looked that up, called the Bardo, which Aldo continually talked to me about, which is a dimension. So that dimension, if you go to that, I lost my train of thought. One more time, the question, quickly, just
For the energies that you're around, how do you not, they don't attach
basically,
to you?
we say, oh, you're a lost soul. And I was just learning about that myself the other day. It was coming to me, and I actually said to Steve, we were watching something, I don't know too much about lost souls, and now you're asking me the question. You're neither here nor there, but there is no time. So someone could say that person was there 100 years in our time. They're not. You usually get someone to help you, and we can do it here too. You know how they say go to the light? So you send that person to basically the light. I believe that's absolutely accurate. So when we're not always sure we've passed. Many spirits that die don't even know it, as far as I know. So that would be called a lost soul, correct? So we, as a psychic or a medium, as I am a channeler too, I hopefully have the ability to send that person, which they do in spirit. They will help. Spirits help each other, just like they do here. So if someone's lost, they will have someone come and tell them. When we pass, and this is what I'm learning too, and Aldo told me this too, but a lot of what he told me didn't sink in till maybe a couple of years later, because I don't have him to ask other than this way. So when we pass, I keep losing myself. Well, we learn lessons, and we are continually
The
guided. I have
lost
no idea
souls.
what I was just going to ask.
You were gonna answer the lost souls when we pass. The lost souls that are out there, do they find their way back into where they need to be?
Absolutely. We are never alone. And that applies in spirit too. When you pass, and one of the last things, and I think I've mentioned this before, my spirit guide, Aldo, who was here, told me, and he had to know that he was going to be passing because he said this was one of the last things. I will be there waiting for you. You don't have to worry about anything. And that brings me into what I was going to say. What we believe, let's say that I was going to meet Jesus or Moses, totally believe that. That's what will happen when I pass. Because if you think about this in our reality, how could Jesus, Moses, or anybody that you want to meet suddenly meet tons of souls at the same time? But I can't get into God because I have chosen not to talk beyond that. But I will meet I will meet Aldo because he told me he was going to be there. So he's telling me, I just told you I'd be there. So I will meet him, and he will help me. Will introduce me back to my family, my daughter who is there, as your son had passed. They will all be there. In my world, I have to say that, but I truly believe it.
I believe that when I make it to heaven, my son would be with his arms wide open. saying,
100%, because you believe it, and he wants you to believe that. We just had a very strange little thing happen here in the studio. I was talking to Karen. This little tiny fly, right, was flying around. We were talking this way. And not only landed inside my glasses, it landed on my nose too. I said, this isn't coincidence. So how does a fly fly into this?
We're analyzing a fly now.
We're
but you
talking
saw it
about
happen.
Spirits. There was a spiritual
And the good
fly.
thing, most of what happens to me, I usually have somebody else there to see that it happens. So
Yeah,
it's
I
not just
saw
me
it.
imagining it.
But if you have a past life with somebody and you know you feel it, it doesn't always mean it's an Aldo or it's somebody who was good in your other life, in a prior life. It could have been your soul contract was not a good relationship.
That's exactly right. And that's one of the reasons that we continue in reincarnation. I believe that you can stop this process at any time when you pass. But why, when you start something, why wouldn't you want to go on with it? So in each lifetime, we have good and bad people in our past. But the ones that both are there. But we're going to learn more, actually, from the negative people in our life, so that in the next life, if we haven't quite woken up to all of this, it's going to be repeated, and it'll be repeated, because that's how we learn.
So everything is a learning curve, even in
Everything-
the spiritual realm.
Absolutely. We continue to learn. I asked Aldo that very question many years ago. And I mean, I have no doubt to doubt anything that he said because he taught me so much. And I sometimes turn the TV on one of the or YouTube. I hear what he was telling me too, because I hear it, but it's good to hear it from someone else. So I keep losing myself. Can you say it one more time? I get carried away with
Everything that happens in the spiritual realm, there's a reason for it.
Absolutely. We never stop on this circle of our life. We don't stop, and we don't stop in the spirit world because we're coming back. So we actually go to school, as far as I know, over there. We attend concerts. We, you know, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not going to do anything about it, obviously, because we're here to learn, and I'd be stopping my growth here, which is equally as important as it is over there.
But you can protect yourself when you go to all these big venues.
Well, I'm learning because as I'm talking more, and I've had this show a long time now.
You don't think so? You don't think you can protect yourself from larger venues?
Well, you can there's good and there's right and wrong to that, to your answer, as far as what I see. You up to a point, but if that negative energy or someone you meet there, wherever it is,
And
you're going to learn from that. So sometimes you have to face
what they're
it.
going to learn from me. The
well,
object of the
yes.
game is that
Well, they may take you in.
fear.
But you're going to meet them again and again in another lifetime.
Fear is what feeds the negative.
That's
So the
totally right.
more you feed it, the more you can't defeat it.
But the more you feed it, then that's definitely, that negativity is important in this lifetime.
But that negativity, if you're feeding it from your own fear.
Well, fear actually stops you from graduating to the next part of the lesson.
But
Because if
that's the lesson.
yeah, So you actually don't want to face it with fear.
But some people in here can point to the fear and say, I got to stay away from that. I got to stay away from that over there because it's a little too dark.
Well, I know exactly what you're talking about. Remember, but you know, this is true too. Because it's like walking into fire. You know it's
Sally,
there, but
you own a power that if you were placed here to clean that up, then your job is to face it. Is to walk to it,
Yeah.
not walk against it, not to try to protect yourself from it, but to go to it and clean it up.
But you know what? Sometimes timing is very important. There is no time, but the timing might not be correct to face that. It might be on our path that we've chosen to face it a year from now. So you have to sometimes say, I don't want this right now. If you want it, bring it on. But it's learning, but we're not always ready to bring on a situation. Does that make sense?
It does.
I have I now that we're talking about that, I remember once in the show that you mentioned when we're kids, we choose our parents. So as adults, as grown adults, and having gone through different tests in life, do lost souls like attach to us to get their message or their purpose out?
Well, there is such a thing, and I was discussing this the other day actually, that souls can walk in. We have a mutual arrangement. It doesn't happen as much as maybe they talk about it, but it can happen. So a soul will come into your, this is really high up there, but can walk into your body and then carry on whatever you want to do. So the thing is, even with that, there's contracts. So if you're experiencing a bad situation, it might be the time for it to be shown. Everything is about timing and different parallels.
Do you remember in the movie Ghost when they were at the
I love that movie.
medium?
Yeah.
And her like their significant other would take
There you go.
possession of her body. Is that real?
Yes, it is real. And it was also, there was a show which actually I used to watch with Aldo called The Psychic, I think it was called. And there were people, I mean, if I remember, it was a long time ago, that someone had walked into a body. This is all based, a lot of these shows are, a Matrix, which we were just discussing, are based on people that understand, and I'm going to say more than myself because I'm learning all the time, but beyond what I'm learning. But I see it, I see it in movies. They're not making this up because you'll now see another movie with something very similar. They know what's going on.
Who gives you those subliminal messages? Who prepares somebody to let's say like President Trump? Somebody knew 10 years ago that President Trump was going to be in office, and how do you get from back then to now?
Okay, because if you think about what I actually do talk about, we plan our life, okay? But although we're not always aware, obviously, until you get messages and you see, I have had premonitions. Again, they don't give me the day and time, but I'll read it or hear about it in the news. So we're choosing to follow my premonition. But sometimes someone can be ahead of that and already have seen it. I didn't see President Trump as president. I don't know what, because I'm not into politics. I try very hard not to, because there's too much negative energy with all that. But I don't always know the time and place with something that I predicted. But that doesn't mean that someone else hasn't had this message, and this is just coming to me, that did know that because they were ahead or they chose to find that out. So there are people that we don't all get the same messages. We get what is relevant for us. So they can see something maybe 10 years on that I only saw a year on in that particular thing. So it happens. Absolutely, people can predict.
So
that.
like,
Hold that thought. We got to take a commercial break.
Okay, yes.
Tell them.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. I will see you on the other side of this show. I love that, okay? Please don't tune out. Tune in.
A true story, Call Me Zena, is the telling of Sally Barnard. Born in London, England at the end of the Second World War, she came into the U.S. in 1979. A mother of 2 and a grandmother of 4, she settled in Florida and worked in real estate. While going through a difficult time in her life, she was admitted into a hospital overnight in December of 2005. While settling back into her life, she began having vivid dreams and documenting them. By the third dream, a lady gave her a message to draw. With no artistic background or interest into art or history, Sally listened to her dreams and grabbed a paper and crayons. Today, she has over 150 pieces of inspiring art and poetry. This book follows her journey and interpretations of these messages. She describes in detail on how she is able to astral a project and who she has met along her travels, including her spirit guides. This book will show you how anything is possible with an open mind. These events have changed Sally's life and direction, and this book will show you how to change yours. Purchase Call Me Zena on Amazon today, authorhouse.com and amazon.com.
My story starts at 4 or 5 years old. My name is Sally Barnard, and I was born at the end of the Second World War, in the middle of an air raid siren going off. My parents were in a movie theater, and my mother went into labor. My father ran out of the movie theater, but there was no cabs to be available because everybody is running for cover. However, they found one, and the taxi driver was given the address to take my father and my mother to the hospital. As my mother was in labor, about a half an hour, I arrived at exactly midnight. I think I was fed messages at a very early age. My parents used to like to play cards, and they had a card game every Wednesday or Thursday night at home when I was a baby. And I actually said to them one day, "Why do you keep waking me up at night? The card game is waking me up, and I can't get back to sleep so quickly." And they looked at each other and they said, "We're not really waking her up." They were quite away from my bedroom. And they called in a psychic to say, "What in the world is going on?" And the psychic said that I'm getting many messages that are waking me up at night. I thought whatever I was experiencing, other people were experiencing too. You don't know until you realize that you are different. Many things were happening to me, things that were unexplainable to me. What I had dreamt was happening. I could sense many things, and the things that I was sensing were coming about, but something was going on. I will explain to you everything. You're ready. Thank you for joining me through this journey of self-discovery with the help of my spirit guides. I'm Sally Barnard, and you can find my book at authorhouse and amazon.com, or visit my art on my clothing in my boutique at artbysallybarnard.com. Now back to the show.
And you're back.
Oh, I'm blowing kisses to people. Hi, I'm back. Okay. All right, please call in if you have a question or anything we've just been talking about, or my book, 888-994-4995. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the studio.
I don't think people realize that you are available for private readings, private sessions, even just a question here and there.
Right.
That you're accessible for a psychic reading.
Absolutely, which I give in the studio here at the Brooklyn Cafe. If you want to give your address, I'm in this
Sure.
mode. I'm not sure.
2400 Northwest Boca Raton Boulevard. And I want people to realize that you are available for readings, to do things, to help people out on one-on-one.
Absolutely, 100%. And I do it here in the other studio. And I'm happy if you want to call in and ask the question now, or you want to continue with how I answer that. We're ready to help you here in the studio.
So can you tell us more about, I believe, what Karen said with children choosing their parents? What is that process like?
Yeah, I truly believe that before we come in, we have arranged our life, actually, not just with our parents, of all the situations that are going to happen here. And Aldo went one step further. By now, Aldo is Aldo, right? He used to tell me that you could even start the process here while we're here. So I'm getting goosebumps. It's like he's with me telling me. So I'm going, but if I wanted to choose my parents, he says, well, there's children walking around. Okay? So you can actually choose here. I'm not saying that that's the way it might be, because I'm sure we have, like, when we're there, we'll say we decided it and we can change our minds. But he told me you can start the process in this lifetime. That's interesting, isn't it? And I look around now at kids and go, oh my gosh, but I can't even think that way. But it's what he told me.
But does your soul come in prior to birth? Or can it come in?
It comes in.
along
That's
the
also a very
process?
good question, because I was, we all have the same thoughts. You're in and out during, let's say, a pregnancy, but obviously it comes in at birth. But during that period, I think it's in and out. And we have mutual contracts with people, for people that have had a termination or a miscarriage. I truly believe that has been a contract between the mother and the baby. It's so people that are feeling bad sometimes, and obviously you're going to, I believe that this is just my belief, so I don't want people to necessarily think this way, but in my belief, I think if that soul wasn't ready to come in, it doesn't mean that it won't come in at a later time in this particular lifetime. It just might not have been the time for that particular, for the mother and baby. Again, that's my belief, and I don't want to belittle anything that people feel. I myself I lost an adult child, but there is an agreement. There's definitely agreement.
So do you feel as if you had a past life with any of your kids?
I believe with all of them, as I do with my friends, as I do here in the studio. We are definitely connected. I can't prove it, but it's a feeling that you get. And they kind of know the lifetimes too, because I think if you're with people that you've had previous lifetimes with, you'll hear a song, or you'll see something and you go, I have a remembrance. And sure enough, the people that you feel that you were with will have that same remembrance. How can you both remember something if it's not in this lifetime? Or even if you don't know that you're having that remembrance, but it might give you goosebumps, or it might make you say, oh, I love that. I feel like I know that. You probably do.
Those places that just feel like home, even if it's the first time you're there. Where you just feel
Exactly.
super comfortable.
Exactly, and we've heard that. I mean, it's kind of open now. People do talk about, previous lives. And children, when they first come in, when they're able to talk, or even before, they can recognize you. They remember their past lives. And we were just saying that on the other show, I believe, because you call that they have an imaginary friend, or they know something, and they'll talk about, well, many children are saying this now, because many kids coming in are remembering. That's their job, to remember and help us. But they'll say that you weren't my mummy in another life, in my last life. Well, they may not even say that. They might just say, you're not my mummy. But they know that they are in this life if they're not old enough to realize a previous life. And they'll go on to explain even what that person and the name of that person. And this has been documented too. They can look that up and find that that person did exist. The child has said something about, there's no way that that child would know in what we believe, but they do, so they're believing more. More and more people are understanding this today. It's important because it helps a lot on this journey here to understand that there's so much more. I think it's very important. If you have the interest, some people have no interest, and I know at this point in my life I have to stop the conversation, because I can only talk about what I feel that if someone is ready. I'm just pushing something on somebody otherwise.
But do you find that people have a hard time separating the spiritual world, the soul connections, the feeling, the being an empath versus I got to pay my mortgage and I got to pay my electric bill and I've got a test in school. I got to I need to send an email out. The balance between the two. Do you ever sometimes I need to shut it off
You can, Dawn.
to do that.
It gets harder for me right now. I was able to do that at one time, but you can incorporate it with your daily life. So if you're sending an email and you're not, or whatever it is, you're going to get messages about that too, whatever it is.
True.
So if you tune in to both worlds, let's say, it's a tremendous help for you. But if you start just concentrating, we're using an email as an example, I don't know what I'm going to do, you're forgetting that you have the answers. So combine that two, which we call, this isn't me, we call balance, okay? And you can balance both of them to your own advantage of how you want it to turn out, because we can manifest. Once you know that, there is nothing, and I absolutely believe this, because I turned on the television the other day and I thought, how am I going to manifest this? Guess what I was watching? All about manifestation. So it's real, and it helps you in our day-to-day life if you want to believe it. And if you do, you have so much more opening up to you. You have this whole spirits are telling me, we're all here. We're all here. I, as Sally, when I'm not thinking that way, and you know this, I don't know the answers to all these questions. I do, but I don't, I mean, it comes very easy to me once I sit down and I get a question, because I know I can tune in. That's why it's easy. But I also know, even now, that I do need that first question. I can probably do it without, but in my mind I have to have, and it can go on to any question after that. But I've opened up, all right. Ready.
I feel as if I can be at a higher vibration in the spiritual realm than in the human realm. So, right. So then you have to balance it to stay where you need to stay.
Yes, because if you're not, you're bringing yourself back into the reality of this. This is really important. It's for all of us to really understand, and myself too. It takes me away from my spirit. Okay, so just give me the last part, and it'll tune in again.
When I can stay in a higher vibration when I'm sitting here
Right.
with you, but if I go and I'm trying to sit writing paychecks or bills, or I go
get
out
it,
and I
yeah.
start traveling, that vibration doesn't stay as high when I leave
Well,
here.
you're lowering it to the everyday things of the lower we're in a very low vibration here. So if you know that now, because you're ahead of the game, let's call it, you say to yourself, no, center myself. I don't do it all the time, of course I don't, but just knowing that you know it, you center yourself and say, I have this to do, help me. And you'll find it'll flow very easily of what you may have been worried 5 minutes prior about. Because as long as you tune into that, absolutely tune into it and know that you're capable of doing that, you have, and I talk about it there, years before I understood that. We have all the answers. Maybe it's about timing sometimes, maybe not get all the answers all at once because it might be 4 or 5 months from now. But it doesn't mean to say you can't do it. You can do it.
So I think that's probably the other question, timing. You want the next greatest job, or you want to find the love
Yeah.
of your life, your soulmate, and you put it out there. I heard someone say the other day, they physically write it in a journal, they sign it and date it as if they're giving it to the universe and to God. I think people all do it in different ways.
Well, I know, and funnily enough, I read it out loud to Freddie about an hour and a half ago. I have something on the wall out there. And everything is coming about. I'm redoing my website. I'm not sure when the movie is going to happen, but my book and everything. I should say I'm not sure. It's happening. And that's an example. But it was right there when I had written. It's very rarely that I look at that.
Right.
So write it down and it will remind you that we can manifest. Absolutely we can manifest. We've got to believe that we can. Because if you say, everything's going wrong, and we do because we're human, I'm having a really bad day, or this week's terribly difficult for me, I'm not going to enjoy it. That's what's going to happen because you're manifesting that. So why not manifest the positive?
Do you manifest?
Honestly, I mean, I learn a lot from Sally, but I don't tend to manifest a lot in my daily life. I feel like I'm working very hard at the moment between here and also what I do with Freddie's son and getting my master's. And I feel like I'm confident that I'll be successful, but I feel like I'm working towards it. So, like, I feel like I'm not just like, please, universe, make me successful. I'm, like, putting in the work to
and that works,
become
that's
successful.
fine, because you're right where you're meant to be, so to speak, because you are continuing and you're continuing to grow. But all you have to do, I believe, just at this point in your life, to know and move forward is to believe that you're going to be all right with anything that you do.
Like, sometimes I feel frustrated of like, oh,
Well,
like I'm so stressed and
And that's normal because
what am I doing? Am I making the right decisions? Like,
But be confident in that. Because as long as you have in the back of your mind, I know this will work out. Voice it. Also, when you voice it, there's another thing that I've learned too. If there's a time limit, it might happen 10 years from now. So the universe only knows literally only knows what you're putting out. I want this to happen. Then you say, I want this to happen now, or maybe you don't want it right now. Maybe you want it a week from now. Voice when you want it to happen. That's also very, very important. But believe that it's going to happen. That's also, it's like a chain of different things that happen for this to absolutely manifest itself. I don't want to say for working out because it will work out. But it will manifest itself if you believe it. It can do it. I think it may be a little harder instantly because that's what we're trained to, but
instant gratification.
It may be a little bit because the vibration, have to go out there, but it will happen. Absolutely. And it sometimes may not even happen the way that you think it's happening. But
Yeah.
you know what? There's a plan for that to happen, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Sally. That's
You're
true.
You're welcome.
So you can put a time frame on it.
Yes, in our time, because they don't, again, that's why, because they don't know time when you're manifesting. If you're going to be helped, or we have what we call a higher self that is actually guiding us. So if they know more than we when maybe we had planned for that to happen. But we can change anything because we have free will. So if we want something to happen next week, maybe we had planned that to happen before we came in 2 years from that date. Again, there's no time, but with us there is. So you say, I want this to happen Thursday. There's nothing wrong in doing that. And you know what? I believe it will happen, but you've got to truly believe it happens. I've done it and it hasn't happened because there's something wrong. I'm not thinking that it will. But I should know better at this point. I should know that it's going to happen because I've had many, many examples of that. Many.
And the worst that happens is it doesn't, right? And you keep
And then
going.
you do it again.
And you do
You
it
mention
again.
it again.
And that's like I do it
Say, okay, it
every
didn't
week.
happen. I am going to manifest it if you give the day. Because what I manifested happened something even with when I met Steve. I kind of knew exactly where we were going to go for lunch. I didn't know. I mean, I knew him a long time ago. My first date,
Your first date?
when I met it, yes. He took me to the restaurant. It was a deli. Why would I manifest I want to go for a deli lunch? But I said, you know what? I'd like to go a first date eventually to a deli lunch. He didn't know this. He picked me up because we knew him at my house. He said, would you want to go for a deli for lunch? On my first date. So it works, even if I didn't even think that it was going to, because it wasn't that important that I went to a deli, but I had already said that I wanted to.
But you can manifest anything, which is why people
Anything.
have specific questions. When you have visions or your guides speak to you and you see what you see, and it's just you, right? No one's asked you a question. Do you ever wonder where that gets tied to? Why are you seeing this piece? Why is that coming to you now?
Well, because I've trained myself a little bit more than I had done even 10 years ago, if I'm seeing something, I believe there's a purpose that I'm seeing it. If I have a vivid dream, I had to, in fact, I told Steve this, was it yesterday, on the phone this morning to him, I was dreaming of you last night. I said, I don't usually do that. I'm dreaming of Dawn all night. I have no idea why. It probably wasn't. It's funny that you even mentioned me, because this sounds really weird. You were wearing a very similar dress.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
I've never
So your
said
dreams
that.
are very detailed.
You know, yeah, if I remember it.
Yeah.
We have dreams, but if I remember it, there's a specific reason that I had that dream, Dawn. I don't know. I'm getting like very warm and cold right now. So there's definitely a reason for
why.
that. I do not know the answer. But here you've reminded me on my show here that I had that dream. And Steve will tell you that. Well, he's busy. I'll say, who did I dream of last night? He's going to say Dawn, because I actually was still on my mind when I spoke to him earlier this morning. I don't remember the whole dream, but it was a specific dream.
And when people say things, so I was talking to somebody,
like I'm going.
and they told me, well, this happened there, something in history, which I had never heard of, knew of, nothing. It was as a trigger, and that's why I asked you what did that happen? And for me, validation comes when my eyes tear. And I'm not crying, it's just, you just feel
You feel it,
right?
like I am right now. You see when my face has gone scarlet, because I'm feeling what I dreamt, and you don't always know that. But when you say, do I remember, a lot of dreams are just in our subconscious. But if it's something important that we've chosen, I remember my dreams from 20 years ago, which I don't read my book, but some of the travels that I had. I didn't know that, but I can go right at that time, but I can go right back and give you details of what happened 20 years ago. I don't remember fully the dream I had last night. 99 dreams that I have now have no significance, so I don't remember it. The ones that are very vivid are usually messages that we're pulling up from what we call a superconsciousness.
Yes, my dreams tend to mix experiences, which I think is super interesting. But like, I'll have a dream with like someone from the studio, someone from Argentina, and someone from Jersey, and all four of us will be in the same room. And it's like, how?
Because you're connected to them. That's my take on what you're saying. And you actually, as I had mentioned earlier, there is such a thing as an astral plane, because I astral projected, not knowing anything about what was happening to me. So you actually are meeting those people.
Oh yeah, no, they're all people I know. It's just funny because they're people
they're
I know in
together.
different places, and
Doesn't
in my
matter.
dream, we're all together in one
Yeah,
room.
And you are.
It's like, wow.
The best I know that you actually were with them and you were talking. They don't necessarily have to be in spirit for that to happen. We were probably talking last night. Do I remember the subject? No. But you were definitely wearing something like you're wearing now. That
That's so
comes
funny.
back to me, yeah.
It's so funny. And when you have visions, when you become an empath, do you feel as if you accept and expect pretty much anything and everything that could happen?
Wait, what is your definition of an empath?
Hmm?
Your definition of an empath?
Well, you feel more than someone else. You can feel someone if they're upset. You get that you're getting a vibrational energy from that person. And an empath can usually pick up, like I as a child, and I didn't really understand that, but if someone had been in my bedroom or any room, I would say, why do I feel like someone, I didn't know, I was a little girl. Why I feel like someone's been in this room? Well, someone had, but we leave imprints. And when my bedroom or wherever they'd been, I sense that. But then again, I said, well, maybe everybody does that. An empath will. So you have more feeling about what's going on, what's going to happen. A loud noise. I have never liked loud noise. I used to be really scared of fireworks and things because they were noisy. So everything has more of an impact because you're picking it up more, which Dawn is definitely an empath too.
But I think when people say, oh, can you believe this one got divorced or this something happened? I think I've experienced so many things that I'm not surprised when I hear it because nothing really surprises me anymore. I'll feel badly or I'll feel happy or I'm excited for that person. But as much as an empath I am for energy,
That's exactly right.
I don't not expect things to happen. I
And
guess.
that's exactly right, because you're right where you are on your journey. Because I used to say to Aldo, I'd say, you know, how, you know, I'm surprised. He'd say, in his words all the time to me, it's to be expected. And that's what I'm going to say to you. It's to be expected because we're picking that up. I never, and I usually talk about it this way, I don't want to lose that aha moment because that's important,
Right.
but I expect it much more. I mean, silly things, which I'll tell you maybe another time, of when I always get in a car, I always find parking spaces. And Steve sees that. Usually when I get in a car, and this is the weirdest thing, I have no idea why, but usually the car, even if it's a busy, busy parking lot, usually always someone is getting in or out of the next space, and there's no other spaces. I told him this when I first met him, and I'm finding a parking. Now he expects it. We actually look around, oh look, the car is moving, or there's a space right there. So it's to be expected, and that's exactly. And if you think that, it will be expected, and you will have it.
About
will happen.
positive things happening. And I think when you start seeing success, right, you get an A in school, then you get another A in school. It raises your vibration. You say, you know what, I'm doing great, as opposed to when your grades aren't so good. And those bad grades come one after another. Once you see success,
Exactly.
it elevates you, whatever it is, or you've got a great date
And there's
or a
a
great
reason
job.
for that, Dawn, because you're actually in competition actually with yourself. So if you're getting an A, you expect an A. So you actually, and my daughter was very much into this. She was bright. And it was harder for her to work, but that was what she was, because she said, everybody expects me to get an A, which she did. But you have to still work at it, but you're more conscious of it. She's telling me that now, actually. She always got A's. There was, at that point in her life, she was able to manifest that too. And she was a bright person.
Because to manifest things, like you said, you want a great job, you want to meet a great networking opportunity. You can't sit home and not answer your phone, or you have
Exactly.
to put yourself out there. It's not just going to magically fall from the sky without putting in some of the work.
That's why I was kind of hesitant with the whole manifestation.
And then it magically falls, right? Then that connection leads to another connection, but you actually physically went out, and you're showing the universe that you really want this. You're not just sitting home saying, give me. You're actually putting forth the energy is how I take
Well,
it.
they expect you to do that too.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they won't put the thing in front of you, but if you're sitting at home and you're just not meeting anybody, they probably say to themselves, and I don't know, leave her alone, she's not even bothering. It's the same as what we would say here. But if they see you physically trying to get this done, wouldn't you, if you see someone here without manifestation, and they're really trying hard to do something, and you want to help them, you're going to help them. But if they just step back and say, bring it on, let them be. I can't be bothered. It's the same. They're telling me that. They won't bother. So you have to put it. I just suddenly saw that. But it makes sense, right?
I have a question now.
Right.
Actually, you made me think of something. So I personally don't manifest romantic relationships. I feel like that always happens naturally. I don't tend to look for them. They tend to find me. It happens when it happens. Do you think that people who manifest romantic relationships are quicker to settle? Like those people who are like, oh my God, I just want to be with someone. I just want to be with someone. Do you think they're quicker to be with someone just because?
Good question.
That's a good question, but it has a lot of answers. So that we manifest, let's say you're manifesting a relationship, and some people are very specific about that. So what you're putting out, how that, in my mind, the way that I think that would work, that particular person that you've manifested might be manifesting, or you arranged a meeting. That's what
Unconsciously.
Yes, because you've already planned that out, is going to appear, because that's what happened to me with Steve on my first date. I had to have known already that I was going to go into a deli, so it came to me, which is ridiculous. I mean, really. But I said, why didn't I manifest a trip to Paris? Like,
Exactly.
but no, it was a deli. But it shows me that it works no matter what you manifest. So that vibrational energy is hitting that particular person, whether you know them or not. Because if you don't go out of your house, how in the world is that going to happen?
But
right?
were you, before you met Steve, feeling like, I want to meet someone, I want to meet someone? Like, were you feeling that, like...
Yes and no, because, yes, I was probably, but I wasn't actively going out there looking for someone. That wasn't where I was at. But I had said, obviously, because I wouldn't have said my first date probably, now that I think about that, I would like to be in a deli. I mean, this is ridiculous. But that actually happened. But many other things have too. But that just shows you how you can manifest. I didn't put a time on it. It was something maybe I had thought about 6 months before I met him. But that was still out there.
All right, I think they're telling us it's time to wrap
they
it
are,
up.
Yes. Well, that was a great show. Please call in. Call the studio every Monday if there's a question. If you have any questions, please buy my book. I can give you the answers to what I've written. It is also an ebook. So if you don't feel like you want the book right now, you can purchase an ebook. I've made it an ebook now.
How do they
so.
get that, on Amazon?
I believe it's on Amazon, yes. I actually, even with Author House, but Amazon is probably, most people know, but my publisher was Author House, so you can go in and get an ebook on authorhouse.com, I believe.
Call Me Zena.
Call me Zena, yeah. Call me Zena.
Say goodbye.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. You have been watching Call Me Zena with your host, Sally Barnard. As an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer, know that you can always seek me out for resources by visiting artbysallybarnard.com. Join us next week, Mondays at 2:30. Have a blessed day.